This problem is personal to me. I got sick at 18 with a rare disease that nobody understood or knew how to help. So I went from specialist to specialist carrying a big binder of all of my medical information. It wasn't until 3 years in that I got really frustrated, turned that binder into spreadsheets, and presented those spreadsheets to a doctor. Within weeks, I was diagnosed, treated, and feeling much better. That's why I built Wingspan. I want everyone to be able to feel in control of their health.
I just invested in the mint for medical records online through a platform called Wefunder. And in this video, I'm going to share a little bit about the company Wingspan Health. I'm going to share the investment terms, and I'm also going to share why I made this investment. And my goal is to share the investment analysis decision-making process. So if you guys are interested in investing in startups, you're looking for the next high-growth company, make sure you watch this video until the very end. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to raise capital for your startup, I've done both of these things. So if you guys are interested in entrepreneurship, building startups, or investing in startups, you've come to the right place. That's what I talk about here on the channel. So make sure you subscribe and like this video, and let me know what you think about the company down in the comments. I'm going to be breaking down the company Wingspan Health's investor pitch deck. I'm going to go through it slide by slide so you can get the perspective of both the entrepreneur and the investor through this whole investment process. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about this company, Wingspan Health. Basically, this company is automatically bringing all of your health history into one place. Now we're going to talk about the problems and the solution, and we're going to get into it, but at a high level, it's actually pretty easy to understand. This is very similar to what Mint does for your finances. It brings everything in together in one space. There's a mobile app, there's a website, and all of your financial transactions are all right there. And when you think about your healthcare, this doesn't really exist. It's really messy. Medical records are all over the place. You don't even know when the last time you got your flu shot is. When did you get your COVID test, right? There's so many different things that go into your personal health that are just completely all over the place. And this is the 21st century, so we're well overdue for some innovation in this arena. When we talk about the investment terms, this is a very early stage company. You can call it a seed round, pre-seed round, whatever, but it's available on wefunder.com. And I want to make full transparency. I have no affiliation to this company. I was scrolling through the Wefunder site looking for different investment deals, and I came across this company and it looked really, really interesting. So I wanted to learn more about it. And I really like the industry. I like the CEO. I like a lot of things. We'll talk about them in this video. But the URL I'll make linked in the description below if you want to click in and learn more about the company. They're raising online through a regulation CF, regulation crowdfunding. They're basically doing an open public offering. So for a limited window of time, the general public can invest for as little as $100 and actually own or have the future potential to own a piece of this company. And so the valuation cap of this investment vehicle, which is a safe, simple agreement for future equity, is $6 million. So you're not investing at a $6 million valuation. Ideally, the company goes on and raises future financing, and your investment will basically convert into equity at the valuation in the future, capped at $6 million. So most likely this company will raise a Series A price round of financing well above $6 million. And the cap is actually to protect you so that you don't get diluted. So if you imagine, a $100 investment, you can just basically break it out into $6 million. Now, if you guys are interested in learning more about how to invest in startups, I've made a few videos on that. They're actually my most popular videos, which is why I've decided to continue this series. So make sure you check out how to invest in startups and all the other investments that I've made here in 2020. If you're watching this in the future, most likely, you can check those out and hopefully you can learn from my investment analysis. Now, when we move over to the key factors here, when you're trying to analyze a company, you want to break down the problem, solution, business model, market, traction, and team. You also want to look at the finances, make sure everything makes a lot of sense. You can also look at the Form C, which is available anytime a company files to go public through Regulation CF. You have to file with the SEC, a Form C, and you can dig into the financial data. But to be honest, in a startup, it doesn't really matter that much because you're investing in the total addressable market, the CEO, the founding team, and the traction so far. What you think the potential of this business can be. And you need to understand the business. That starts with understanding the problem that they are trying to solve. What is the problem? So the system, the healthcare system, makes it really hard to answer basic questions about your health. I asked some of them before, when was your tetanus shot? When did you get your COVID vaccine? Are you being screened for the right things when you go to the doctor? Should you be going to the doctor more often? Why aren't you going to the doctor? What happens with all of this data and how do we make sense of it? It's a really, really messy situation right now, in the United States at least. I have some stats that I pulled from the Wefunder landing page. 93% of millennials Do not schedule doctor appointments, like regular health screenings, yearly physical, stuff like that. 93%, I'm a millennial. Come on, people. 54% of millennials have been diagnosed with some sort of chronic illness and they're not receiving care. And yes, there's some big health challenges in the United States and all over the world, but a lot of these people do have health care. So it's not like they don't have health care. They're in a socioeconomic position where they just don't have access to this. They do, but it's a completely broken system. So that's terrible. And then this is my favorite one. 75% of doctors believe that they communicate satisfactory, whereas only 21% of the patients agree with them, meaning there's this huge disconnect of communicating the information that's relevant to your health, which is really the most valuable thing that you have. I say time is the most valuable asset that we possess, but if you don't have your health, then what does the time even mean, right? So your health is incredibly important, and so the solution here, it's a two-sided problem, it's a two-sided solution. So the other problem is that the healthcare institutions don't have really good data. So there's a problem for researchers. It's flawed data, and that equals flawed conclusions in terms of helping people continue to be healthy, prevent disease, and things like that. So two-pronged problem, and also the solution very similarly. So by having all of your health in one place through the website, Wingspan Health, right? Just putting it all in one space, you get a longitudinal record of health. So over the long run and across every dimension, everything is sort of coming together through this platform. And it's really a broken process right now. So how does this company make money? This is really interesting. It's through structured data. So when you have a massive amount of user base and a lot of people have a lot of different sources of data coming into there, for researchers and big institutions, this is extremely valuable. And so the business model is data licensing agreements. And I read somewhere on the deck that a one-time data delivery is $500,000 per year. I don't know if that's on the low end or the high end or that's average, but these are big time clients. For my company, we're a subscription business, digital, and we charge, $20-30 a month. We're talking $500,000 a year. These are institutions. So this is a B2B play. This is not, no individual is paying $500,000 a year. Something to keep in mind. And the market is huge. So this is the patient registry data market. So, it's a multi-billion-dollar market growing 12% per year. So obviously there's a lot of potential there. And, if you look at the existing players, and we'll talk about that in the deck, we'll look at what the existing players are doing. From both the consumer side, putting your data into the system, connecting your platforms into the system, as well as the business side, there's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of problem to be solved, which is something that you want to look for in a business, that the problem is just so massive and it's so detrimental. I mean, this is people's health we're talking about if it's not being addressed appropriately. When we think about the traction of this business, so it's a very new company, 2020 launch. In the first 6 months, integrated 300 plus healthcare organizations. That's incredible. It took Apple 6 years to do this. That's insane. And then in the first year, over 700 different healthcare organizations are synced in with the platform, which represents about 50% of the total market has already been integrated, and the user base perspective growing at 30% month over month. Now I know the numbers are small, but you want to have fast growth, you want to have a team that can hustle, and they've been doing this on very, very little resources. I mean, the company launched in 2020, very little funding. The team is led by CEO, she's awesome, and she has personal experience with this problem. And the two things that I love, she not only has personal experience. Number one, I think when she was 18, she had a rare illness and she went like 3 years without it being diagnosed. And finally, she had to carry a binder of all of her medical records, and it's just terrible. Actually, you know what? Hear it from her firsthand what that experience was like.
This problem is personal to me. I got sick at 18 with a rare disease that nobody understood or knew how to help. So I went from specialist to specialist carrying a big binder of all of my medical information. It wasn't until 3 years in that I got really frustrated, turned that binder into spreadsheets, and presented those spreadsheets to a doctor. Within weeks, I was diagnosed, treated, and feeling much better. That's why I built Wingspan. I want everyone to be able to feel in control of their health.
And the second thing I love about the CEO is that she is a domain expert. She's worked in the industry, and these are the two, killers. I look at them for myself at our company, personal experience in the product, in the problem, in the solution, as well as domain expertise. That is really critical, especially at early stage. And when you're trying to make an investment off of not that much, traction, there's no revenue to date. So really you're investing in the team, the market, and their ability to execute in that market. Let's go ahead and look at the investment deck. So we're looking at Wingspan Health. Get a full picture of your health. I love how simple this deck is. A lot of times decks can be overcomplicated. I'm guilty as charged. Let's go ahead and swipe through. I think it's only 10 slides. And now let's look at the team. The team is the most important thing, and they put that right up in front because they know that they need to lean on their expertise in the industry as well as their knowledge of the problem. So we talked about CEO, there she is, and she brings engineering background. She's worked in industry. She talks about her personal experience dealing with these challenges. These are the industry or the companies that she's worked for. They have, medical knowledge, extensive. We got the MD, checking off some different organizations that you've heard of. And then, rounding out the team, I love this all-woman team. I just realized that. So that's awesome. That's actually not that common. So definitely want to support companies that are led by founders who have domain expertise and a passion for the industry and the thing that they're going to solve. So that is awesome. Let's go ahead and skim through here. So I mentioned it's a two-part problem. There's the patient problem. And these are questions that if you're watching this video as a human being, you have these questions about yourself. When did you take the last tetanus shot? How about COVID? Your blood pressure, is exercise doing anything for you? Sleep, strep throat. I think this is a big one. Like, aren't you concerned about, maybe I should get tested for something? Maybe I should, at a certain age, maybe, I'm a higher risk for certain things. And you don't know that because there's no information to tell you that. So huge problem there. And when we look at the research problem, it's just the data is not very good. Better data gives you better decisions, improves healthcare outcomes at every level. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. That better information, more accurate information, if it's used properly, can have substantive implications for humanity in general. So that's really important. 13% of patient IDs are corrupted. That just sounds ridiculous. Like the fact that it's over a single digit percent is just ridiculous. 25% missing medication data? Like, are you kidding? These numbers just sound so silly. It's 2021 basically, and here we are talking about double-digit percentages of lab data that's completely missing. This is just absolutely a joke, actually. I mean, quite frankly, this is pathetic that this is the area we live in, and so this is a huge problem that needs to be solved. The solution, everything gets connected in one spot. I mean, this has already been done. We mentioned in Mint in finance, and unfortunately, I think that innovation has happened because it has to do with money. And so people, unfortunately, they care more about their money sometimes than their health. And so, where there's money to be made, people go after it. Not that there isn't money to be made in this industry, but people, unfortunately, they don't take their health as seriously. And I don't think there's enough pressure on the healthcare system to make stuff like this happen, integrate these platforms that you've heard of. I mean, these are some of the big guns here. It's not only 23andMe. Obviously, you've got the health and wellness. That's my domain. Getting in some of these institutes, that's a really big deal. And so to integrate with all of them so quickly is amazing. Now, here's the platform. And here's dashboard. Very clean UI. I think anyone who's had some kind of healthcare in the United States and they've integrated with some kind of a system, they've seen a dashboard that looks kind of like this. But if you move or you change systems, or it doesn't fully integrate with your smartwatch maybe, or your Fitbit or whatever, or the other apps that you're using. And so it's kind of silly actually, the fact that you don't have like one central place. So imagine having like 17 different emails. And some people do have multiple emails, and that's hard enough trying to keep track of it. It's like your phone number. You have one phone number. Everything goes onto that single phone. And we don't really have that here in healthcare. So this is something that's missing. We talk about the market. It's growing. Here it is. This is the $500,000 annual recurring revenue deal size. That is a very large number. So you get a few clients, businesses generating a few $1 million just off the bat. And then the sky is the limit, quite literally. So that's really exciting. Now here is some of the competition. So you might think, well, there's some platforms that are already out there. I've heard of a couple of these, but what is the differentiator here? And obviously, I think it's this one actually. This is the longitudinal record. That's amazing. A few other things, communicate with patients, sure. And then I think actually on the next slide, let me see, user product competition. So this is from like as a normal person, you and I off the street, this is where they're really making everything happen. And I think when it comes to looking at a competition slide in a pitch deck especially, I definitely probably undervalue the competition slide, because in the beginning, you just need to execute on your own strategy, listen to the customers, listen to the market, listen to who you're trying to add value to, and you need to execute towards that. If anything, oftentimes the competition is not the big gun. It's not Apple. It's not these massive companies. It's other startups that are going to come in and innovate faster than you, or they're going to do a better job than what you're doing. So, I look at a competition slide and it's like, yeah, okay, I mean, there's certainly things out there. I mean, yeah, there's HealthKit. If anything, if this company can grow really fast, acquire attention, create some kind of valuable integration, and the team is rock star, Apple will just come in and buy the company, buy out the team, or do something like that. They do that all the time. It's mostly under the radar when Apple does it. Apple, there's no doubt, will get into this game. They're already trying to get into healthcare. Huge. If you notice, I'm wearing an Apple Watch, carrying an iPad. They have a very large market penetration in a lot of different categories, and they're trying to move into healthcare. So I think that's actually only good for this company. Some people view that as bad. I think that's actually very good to have a player like Apple want to get involved. Not only that, they're integrated with Apple already, right? They're talking about data. I mean, look at all these. This is just ridiculous. And this shows, I guess, the number of institutions. So I think they mentioned the 300 in just the first half of the year. Really, really good, and continuing to integrate. I think this represents 50% of the total penetration of total healthcare. I don't think it's realistic to really try and itch for every single percent to get every single healthcare institution. Maybe that's the vision, but when you have critical mass, as they say, you can start to make stuff happen when you cover, we've got 2/3 of all providers, 70%, 80%, 90% of all healthcare organizations are linked into this. So pretty much you're the outlier if your platform does not sync. And when you're in that kind of a position, a lot of big things can happen and the snowball effect will start to take shape. So that's really, really exciting here. And then finally, what are we trying to do? So you got to continue growing, right? We need to continue to see growth, because we're not looking at revenue. We're looking at the integration. Oh, there it is. That's what we're trying to hit. 90%, right? That's when the snowball happens. And so, they're sort of dependent on each other. So you can't have one without the other. I mean, sure, you can get new data sources, but if no one's using them, it's not going to happen. And if you don't get new members, then it's going to be harder to show traction and integrate more platforms. So I definitely think this team has a lot of hustle. I appreciate the CEO, everything that the company is trying to do. I think this is a really large opportunity. Again, I don't have any affiliation to the company other than I just dropped some money into the Wefunder investment. So if you guys are interested in checking out the company and supporting this mission and the vision of the company, I think everyone has some healthcare relation to the industry, whether they themselves are a patient or they have a loved one that's experienced something where this is just ridiculous to carry a binder around for 3 years with all your medical records. I mean, it's 2021, folks. Let's get up to par and let's make something happen. So if you guys are interested in this kind of content, let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to subscribe while you're down there and like the video. Check out my other videos on entrepreneurship, building startups, and investing in startups. And as always, keep hustling.